Welcome to ERCTv. I'm Amaro Shakur.
I am Doug Wallace. And we have a special guest tonight.
Yes,
Tell us who it is.
Kim. Hi, I'm Kim.
Hello, Miss Kim. We are super excited because now we have a female aspect on the subject we're going to talk about today. As you've seen in the last video, we're going to talk about a very important subject tonight. First off, thank you to the 209 people that are following ERCTv. We really appreciate you following us. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch our videos. That's why we make it.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right. Amaru, the internet has exploded with this equal rights committee's Mayo protest / rally. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna spread like that. That surprised me. It surprised you too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we had a few locals reach out to us, and they was telling us, about a few things that's going on down there. So, we decided to, we was gonna go there. You know what I mean? That's what we do. And you made a post the other day. You was like, "There's no lines. Like, we're all one community. We're all humans. Equality." So, when we got these messages, I was like, "Okay, we're gonna go there." So, got the flyer made up and all that, put it out, and it started taking off. You know what I mean? And it actually, it's up to about 30,000 people now that it has reached on the equal rights page. Just that one post. We've received death threats, all kind of stuff. You know what I mean? From counter protesters. And now we're hearing that they're supposed to have a flag rally there on the same day at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
August 15th.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's going to be August 15th, like you said. And we both heard the stories from people that live in Mayo that their voices are not being heard, and they just need some support to help elevate their voices. Do we have a time or any logistics yet, or is that going to come out later?
Yeah, the time it's at 12 p.m., 12 noon. So, like I said, we'll meet up at the courthouse, and everything else will be discussed there.
Okay, awesome. So now we're going to talk about the important topics that we talked about last time, and we've heard Black Lives Matter, and when we were at the protest in Wakulla, it was All Lives Matter. That was their counter protest to Black Lives Matter. People see it on the news, people see it everywhere. And, disclaimer, all three of us, including Sister T, she'll be chimed in later. We're all members of the Equal Rights Committee. So the Equal Rights Committee is not the official Black Lives Matter group. But I did some research, and I want to go over some of this stuff that I found out that I want to share with everybody, and then I want if you guys will.
Like you said, I want to let people know that this is not Black Lives Matter, the organization. Black Lives Matter. We say Black Lives Matter, but this is Equal Rights Committee. I just want to let people know, because people see flyers and they assume that. And this is no disrespect to Black Lives Matter, the organization. We're just, totally different organization. We are Equal Rights Committee. And, we may do things a little differently. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right. So, just because people oftentimes they get their, like we talked about on the last episode, people get their information from memes on Facebook. So I researched some stuff that I wanted to throw out there. And I'll put links to all these stuff. I believe in citing the information, and I believe in transparency. So I'll cite all this stuff in the comments below the video. The Black Lives Matter organization, it's a anti-black racism is hardwired into America's DNA, and it touches black lives every single day, from cop killings to predatory lending to poorly funded schools. Say Black Lives Matter acknowledges that in many ways we never did. So that's what it's doing. It's acknowledging that Black Lives Matter in ways that it never did.
Right.
And that come from an article on the website parents.com, where it talks about how to explain to kids what the Black Lives Matter movement is. It's not an anti-white group.
All right. Since we're on the subject, right? I've seen multiple people comment on the Equal Rights page, and they are saying that one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter movement is a Marxist, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Let the people know what's going on and the misconception, what they are seeing from a meme?
Yes. Okay, the Black Lives Matter movement, the organization, was founded after the murder of Trayvon Martin. When George Zimmerman was released from that killing, he was found not guilty. They started the organization. And the organization in and of itself was to promote Black unity and to promote the funding of education facilities in Black communities, equal funding of housing, low affordable cost housing in Black communities. And it was to bring the community together. That, I don't care what any meme says, that was the original, that's what it come from. Actress Given Sharp explained in a popular video that's circulating on the web that all lives matter is like saying all houses matter. When one neighborhood, one house is on fire. So when you say all lives matter, yes, we're not discounting that, but it's the Black lives that are on fire right now. That's the fire that needs to be put out.
I had used that same scenario from what I seen on Facebook in the interview I did with Poor Dirt Farmer, My Eye on You, and DC Accuracy a few weeks ago. And it's the same thing. So I want people to realize that when we say Black Lives Matter, we are not saying all lives do not matter. We are saying we are on fire. We are in trouble. That's what we are letting y'all know. Like, help us. You know what I mean? It's about unity. It's about equality. Help us. Help your neighbor. Your neighbor's house is on fire. Help your neighbor.
That's right. And so, the three ladies that founded the Black Lives Matter movement, Alicia Garza, and forgive me if I say your name wrong if you happen to watch this video, Patrice Pullers, and Opal Tometi, was the founders of the Black Lives movement. So, Professor, and I looked this up because I wanted to be very precise because so many people take Black Lives Matter to mean only Black lives, but I have never seen a protester say only Black Lives Matter. So Professor Oto states, from the outset, referring to anti-racist protests across the world, she adds, surely this all started because they didn't validate all lives mattering. It's so obvious, it's dangerous. To use the phrase, it's laziness, but deep down I wonder if it comes from the spectrum of racism. However, the phrase contradicts, we're talking about all lives matter. The phrase contradicts itself. Well-intentioned or not, it can be received as all lives already matter, which actually serves only to further defend the current status quo of inequality. And so that's what we have to think when you say all lives matter. Well, all lives were supposed to matter forever, but they didn't. So if you say it now, you're wanting to keep the status quo, which is the oppression of people of color in our communities. So go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Doug. What is one thing that supporters of All Lives Matter have in common? One thing that they have in common. Honestly, it come to your mind.
they're all one race.
All
That's
right.
the first thing that comes to my mind, honestly,
Right.
at every rally I've been to.
Listen, okay, that's cool, right? And that's the answer I was looking for. And I want to let people know
You
this
put me
not
on the spot
scripted.
again, just so you know.
Yeah, but I want to let people know this not scripted or nothing, right? So coming from, you see that this is coming from one race, right? Coming from a white man, why do you feel like these people feel this way when they hear Black Lives Matter? Why do you feel like they have to retaliate and say all lives matter? Because not like I said, not to put you on the spot again. I know
Yeah,
that
you are.
I know that there's certain things that's happened, you know what I mean, that you've gotten the experience on, you know what I mean? And I will never understand that because I am not your color. Just like you will never really fully understand because you're not my color. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So I just want to get a perspective on why do you feel like, these people feel this way?
And I'm trying to think because I don't feel that way. So it's hard for me to defend it.
Oh, and
If
let me clarify this. When I say these people, I'm saying these people as far as these people with the same, mindset or whatever. I'm not saying all white people feel that way because from experience, I know all white people don't feel that way. You know
yes,
what I mean? But
from
I'm
my
not talking.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
From my research and the stuff, because I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research because I wanted to know why, because I don't understand it. So in doing the research and trying to figure this out, there's several reasons. One is it is a backlash from the election of President Obama, in that people that are white, some feel as if they are being left behind, both economically, socially, and in a lot of ways. A lot of white people feel like they're being left behind by the government, and they
So
feel.
it's like retaliation
Well,
for what has happened before. Okay, we speaking like uh presidential. You feel like a lot of things that's happening now is basically like retaliation from the Obama administration. Like, okay, yeah, you had Obama, but this is really what it is.
actually, I think it goes back further than that. My personal belief,
Right.
and I'm going to get a lot of
Right.
grief over this. Let me finish this, and I'm going to get a lot of grief over this. But
That's
this is stemming from because if you go back and you do the research right before Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, he was planning a second march on DC, and his second march on DC was a fight against poverty before he was assassinated. And you go back and you look at his speeches and what he said, he tied both white and black people together and talked about poverty in the country and how it needed to be fought against. Well, over time, if all the white people and all the people of color in this country come together, all the regular everyday people that work their butt off, they all come together and said, you know what, enough's enough. The top 1% have everything, and we're the ones working our ass off. Sorry about that. We're the ones working our butt off while y'all sitting up and y'all getting hundreds of $millions of salary. The people could overtake and get rid of this.
Hey,
But
listen.
by seeding the divisions, it keeps all of us battling one another and keeps their pockets full.
Yeah, and they do that in multiple different ways to divide us. You know what I mean? And there's people with certain mindsets, they feed into it. So they believe that, how they feel is, the only way, and nobody else can be right. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you have to be open-minded to this world. Like, everybody don't feel how you feel. Everybody wasn't raised how you was raised. You know what I mean? But my question is, how do you feel as a Black woman when you hear all lives matter versus Black lives matter? Because I'm Black, but I'm a Black male. You know what I mean? And I'm not separating anything, but I just want to know your perspective on how you feel when you hear that term, all lives matter.
Well, it bothers me when people say that, and I'm going to say why. Because in my experience, and I've, told you this before, I've never experienced just being with somebody and them walking past somebody's car, they're sitting in the car, and they just lock their doors. This person just getting out of the car the same way you are, and you just automatically, you see a Black male and you just lock your car. You're just assuming, oh, he's going to try to rob me, or he's going to try to hurt me or something. So I just need to make sure I don't feel safe around that person. And, just like you guys said earlier, we're not like separating that all lives don't matter, because all lives do matter, but Black lives are the ones that are in trouble right now. We're the ones that are going through things that white people aren't going through. And, that's just, being a mother of a Black male, I am worried raising him, seeing what's going on in the world and how people are. And it's sad that it's that way, but,
But see, that's why we do what we do. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ms. Kim, I have a question. So, as a mother, what are as a person of color and a mother, what are some of your fears? Why do you have these fears?
Oh my goodness. My main fear is me getting a phone call that my son has been killed by police brutality. Anything, just being attacked by somebody because they don't like him because of his skin color, just being judged in the world, period. Just growing up, and how my parents were, they always told me you have to have a certain name or somebody's going to judge you. You can't have colored hair. Your hair can't look like this because somebody's going to judge you. And you may not be anything like these people perceive you to be, but just because you look a certain way, your skin's darker, your hair's how they think is, how it shouldn't be, it's just frightening.
How do you approach that subject with kids?
With kids, me.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and then I'm not even gonna say, as being a mother of a son, because I have a son and I have two daughters as well. We went through this stage for a long time with my oldest daughter when she used to tell me, "Mommy, I hate my hair. Mommy, I hate how dark I am." Because in the media, she's looking at these, she goes to get Barbie dolls. You can hardly find a Barbie doll of color. You can hardly find a Barbie doll who has hair like her, and it hurt me. And for the longest time, to have a conversation with a child like that, you shouldn't have to have a conversation with a child like that. But because of what they're growing up, because they're big, watching YouTube and everything like that, and because of what they're watching, they feel a certain type of way about themselves, and they feel less of themselves because of what they're seeing and what they're hearing.
And let me interrupt you. A lot of this comes from, it's a generational thing, systematic, right? It's been going on for so long. It's instilled in our minds, like whitewash, what they used to, the old heads used to say. You know what I mean? it's instilled in our minds to, you know, believe that certain things are better instead of embracing diversity. So, you know, we'll have a lot of people of, you know, Black people and a lot of people of color will strive for having, we'll get our hair permed, you know what I mean? To make it straighter, to make it more manageable, what some people would say, you know what I mean? But not realizing that, you know, this is our culture, this is how we are. We have to embrace how we are. You know what I mean? But I understand, because in society, if you look a certain way, this is what people don't understand. They'll say, there's some people who still don't believe that racism exists. They're blind to it. They're ignoring it. I wouldn't even say they're blind to it. They're ignoring it because you see it every day.
I remember, you know, growing up, and we're from, my family's from Jamaica, and I have an older brother. So me, you know, watching him grow up, you know, he was always a role model to me and everything. And when he first got his car, he would put his Jamaican flag in the window. And I remember my parents, and I never understood why until like now, because I was very sheltered from stuff like this. They would say, you need to take that out of your car. You can't have stuff in your car, because if you get pulled over by the police, then it's going to be a reason for them to just, you know, treat you a certain type of way. And I'm like, why? People have American flags on their car all the time. Why can't you have a Jamaican flag in your car? But it's the sad truth that you're going to be looked at and judged. Okay, you have that, then you never know how they feel. So,
but see, what, and I understand, you know, how they may feel. They had this basically like a fear that they want to protect him. They want to make sure that he was good. Like, if anything happens while he's out in the world, he's straight. We don't want to create no extra problem. I get that. But at the end of the day, yeah, you shouldn't have to feel that way.
And I can say, you know, because like me and you have talked several times, and we talk about the education process. And like, I'll be the first to tell you, you know, I'm learning stuff constantly. And I'll give a shout out to Dr. Packer. She is an amazing person. I love her to death. Anyway, the impacts of we see the impacts of racism on Black men every single day. But it's not as often that we hear on mainstream media about the effects on Black women. And like you talked about with the dolls and the hair and stuff, amazing professor, she's the one that taught me to look at the situation and think about it, because we all talk about, you know, Black men. Well, women were the last group to get their rights to vote, you know, and colored women have always been below Black men. So even when Black men got a right or a stepping stone, women of color were always a step behind. And so I'm really glad you said that. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because
now
it's an amazing point.
Now listen to this. This is the shift, right? Women of color now are having it more easier than men of color, than Black men. There's been a shift. And the reason why I would say this, right? There's a system set up to break up Black families, right? And the way to break up Black family is to go after the Black man. You have to go after the head. Right. You have to go after the head. So they are using the Black women to go after the head of the Black man. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that this is something that every Black woman is doing to Black man, but it's something that's happening within our society that's so-called legal. You know what I mean? It's that was set up for us. You know what I mean? It's something that we abide by. You know what I mean? There's sometimes where, you know, a relationship may not work out, but in certain states, in order for a woman to not get assistance, she have to put the man on child support. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And
that happens a lot of times in our criminal justice system.
Right. And you have to think that, you know, these are things that were set up for a reason. Slavery, you know, when it was abolished, it wasn't really abolished. It was just transferred to different levels. It was transferred to mentality, different mindsets. You know what I mean? So there's different ways. I feel like there's certain powers figured out how to ultimately not only control Black people, but to control people, period. There's a better way to do it than just whips and chains. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And all it is you're substituting physical chains from, you know, slavery in the Jim Crow era to a different type of chain. It's like we were talking before about redlining, and, you know, we mentioned before about school funding. You know, that is a huge chain, is funding for schools that predominantly serve people of color, because education is the key to advancement in society. It's what brings your wealth up, is going, you know, to college and so forth and so on. And so that's another way that society in general, and I'm going to tell you, this is a personal thing for me, and one thing I fear is that we are moving closer and closer back to segregated schools, because private schools, they can admit who they want to admit. So if you go and you take a poll of private schools and you ask what the racial makeup of them private schools are, 9 out of 10 times, the majority, overwhelming, is going to be white. And now they're allowed to get state funding, while public schools are defunded, and that's where the majority of kids of color go.
See, I'm gonna say this, right? With the COVID-19 and, you know, everything that's happening right now, the politics and all that, we're entering a different era. So there was a few months ago when Fox aired a segment with Carson. What is his first name?
Carlson.
Yeah. And, you know, the reporter they have. Basically what happened was they was reporting on Washington State. And if I'm wrong, we'll post the article, but we'll post the source in the comments in the description. Basically what happened was, you know, with the COVID-19, they were planning on sending Black kids to school first. How does this really, like, what does this mean? And I've heard, and I've checked the sources on this. There was an article before from various news outlets that said that the corona vaccine wouldn't work unless Black people participated in it. Like, what do you think this coming from? Like, and how does that, you know, correspond to what we have going on right now? You think this is another way to divide the people?
Honestly, I don't know. And I've thought about what you said, and, you know, your first thoughts when you're talking about this, you go back to when they were trying to develop a smallpox vaccine and the Tuskegee Institute and stuff, where people of color were used to experiment, basically. And so, yeah, exactly. So I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, because Lord knows Facebook's got plenty of them. And like I mentioned in the show, when you couldn't be here last week, I ain't got a tinfoil hat. You know, my dome's right there. So I don't want to say anything, because I don't want to be misinformed. So I don't want to say yes or no because I just don't have the knowledge.
Right. I understand. I mean, like I said, this is just something that's out there that, you know, I've seen, I've researched, you know what I mean? And I just feel like, you know, at the end of the day, there's a underlying agenda to separate the people, you know, from something bigger than what we really know.
Yeah. Now, I have a
Right.
question, and Ms. Kim, I would love to hear your opinion about this. Whenever people talk and they say, instead of protesting, you need to sit down and talk to people. You need to converse with people. What would be your response to that? You know, you hear that constantly, but then again, we see the protests all around the country, and this is 2020. So, what would be your rebuttal to that?
Well, clearly talking doesn't do a lot for some people, because just the simple fact that you guys are going there to protest, and people are acting the way and saying that the things that they're saying, you guys didn't post anything saying that we're going to come set Mayo on fire or anything like that. You're just going there to protest. And if anybody follows your page or looks at anything, everything that you guys have done has been peaceful. So, I mean, for people to, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
so what would you say to someone that says, well, you just need to sit down and talk?
Okay. I would say, well, if that person, you know, felt the way that they felt, why didn't they come to somebody that they felt that way about and talk to them and express their feelings to that person, instead of posting it on a social media platform where people can clearly see how they feel? Because what you post is what you feel, you know, or what you believe. Nobody's making you post, and all that's free for you to do. It's your page, unless, like I saw somebody say, maybe his page was hacked, but not, you didn't, nobody's come behind that and said anything like that or anything.
Let me say something. What I realized with that situation is that, you know, people post how they feel. It'll be posts from 2019, posts from before, you know, up until current. And when these posts are exposed, you know, people would say, oh, those were just jokes. You know what I mean? They really didn't mean it. But when you look at these posts, there was like, it sounds serious. You know what I mean? So do you think when people feel certain pressures and that people feel like there's eyes on them, then they really want to change how they really feel?
I think that's what it is too. But just going back with what he said, like, what would you say to somebody who's saying you should talk to this person before you try to put them out there? Once again, everything is put on social media already. So, I mean, jobs are already checking social media pages.
But
so
the thing is, like I said before, when we expose these people, we're not posting one screenshot. This is something that people have been posting over the course of months, or even in some instances, years. So this is like how a person really is either portraying themselves or how they really feel. You know what I mean?
But a lot of people are saying you could just talk to these people instead of going at them and getting their jobs. And I'm saying with that, I would just
right.
say,
you're
this
right.
is how they've already felt.
You're right. But at the same time, right, it's posted on the public platform.
That's what I'm saying.
All we are doing is not twisting up nothing they said. We are posting what they said. That's it. And the thing is, they may have not gotten as much backlash from what they have said because of their friendlies. But most of the time, these people, their pages are private. So the only thing these things really get exposed is from someone from their friendlies. You know what I mean? And
well, see, and if I could add to that,
you know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could add to that, a personal example for me. I grew up around, and me and you talked about this before we started filming today. My grandmother took me to church. We went to Pentecostal churches. We went to Baptist churches. We went to all kinds of churches. But I grew up Christian. So the Muslim faith, I didn't know anything about the Muslim faith until 2001 terrorist attacks, and then all Muslims are bad. So I took it upon myself. Okay, well, what is what is Islam? What does it represent? What's a real Muslim person like? And I actually tried to find people like that. And I guess you could say I searched for the knowledge. And I think that's a key with people. When you say, we just talk to people, these people have to be receptive. They have to want to hear and understand what other people are saying. And if they're just posting stuff, they're not wanting to hear. They're wanting to be heard. They're wanting likes. If they really wanted to hear and listen, they would ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's where knowledge starts, is from a question. So,
so you
go ahead.
You like it was a certain point when you realize that. Would you say, and like I said, I'm asking you, as a black man to a white man, would you say there was some point where you didn't have the knowledge that you have now, and you felt, a certain type of way, how, say, like a person of like all lives matter, like that, just having that ignorance? I wouldn't even say being racist, but just having that ignorance. I know you said your grandma taught you a lot of things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And I'll say this. First and foremost, I grew up dirt poor. And my mother, she worked several jobs. Just, most of the time I had to take care of my little sister. She worked several jobs, and just to put food on the table. And so she was working right there with black women. She waited tables. She was waiting tables with black women. And so I did not get the racism that you see online sometimes. I never was like that. But what I will say is, yes, there was a time in my life where I had certain prejudice and I had certain stereotypes in my mind about black people. But what happened was, one of the best things that, for me personally, was extracurricular activities in school, band and football. Because if you're in band or you're in football or you're in basketball, you're on a team atmosphere, and your teammates they don't all believe the same thing you do, but you have to depend on your teammates. And like in football especially, your teammates are your brothers. So it challenges, it challenges all of them prejudiced, in that, yes, you may have had the stereotype, but all of a sudden I'm counting on this guy and he's there for me no matter what. So that prejudice that I had is not necessarily true. So if I had to, me personally, point out something, and this is why extracurricular activities are so important, is because that's where I wasn't stuck in a classroom where you can't talk, you just got to listen to the teacher. I wasn't at home. I was around other people and involved with other people with different belief systems and different colors, and I got more life experience. Does that make sense?
Right. And that's why we talk about having more diversity within our community in Taylor County and Perry. So I feel like, we do need more people of color, because, predominantly it's mainly white people, you know what I mean? And we need more people of color because there are people like us, and we need somebody to look up to. I want to let people know that there's other outlets, you know, than doing other things. So it's like, what is Taylor County doing for our community? You know what I mean? For the Black community, what resources do we have? And I'm not asking you this. I'm asking our politicians, our leaders. What resources do we have for our community here in Taylor County?
And
What
that's
can
like
we?
I'm sorry. That's like one of
Go
the
ahead.
questions that I posted, or we posted on the site this week, was the recruitment of people of color as police officers and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are the people that our kids see every day. You know, they walk through the halls at school and you see maybe 2 Black teachers in an entire school. Well, all of a sudden, it's what is the predominant color, and they're in positions of authority. So that's where
Right.
the systemic part of the issue stems from. And the same with police is, if you have, you know, if your Black son is on the street and he's playing basketball and he never sees a Black police officer, then unless it's explained to him of, you know, this is where we live and there's not a lot of Black people, then he may have the preconceived assumption police officers are white.
Right. And not only that, every encounter he may have with the police, it may be negative. And not only that it may be negative, they may be white. So then you have this thought to where, okay, the police are white, they're racist, they're gonna do me wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they experience, right?
So
In
go ahead, I'm
communities,
sorry.
in our communities, we need more people of colors to fill, you know, these positions. We need more Blacks and as politicians, as police officers. You know what I mean? And I understand there's this stigma to where we don't want to be affiliated with the police because we feel like, you know, that's snitching or whatever. But at the end of the day, in order to make change in our community, we have to get in these positions. You know what I mean? We have to be able to take these positions, to be able to change our community, to be able to, you know, see the change and make the change that we want within our communities. Other than that, you know, just asking for it. That's why I tell people it's beyond the protest. You know, the protest, that's one thing. We'll bring awareness with the protest, but it's beyond that. You know what I mean? So it goes deep. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm gonna throw a little pitch out there, because, you know, that's like we started the petition to have African American studies taught as an elective course in middle or high school in our school district. We started that petition. It's on our website, and we need people to sign it, you know, so we can go before the school board and say, hey, we want our kids of color to learn there is a whole diaspora of history that's not being taught in a regular history course. And,
Right.
you know, we asked the question, you know, the whole thing with teachers, and you mentioned elected officials, our elected officials, that has to be something we ask when they come around and they want to put a sign in our yard. Hey, are you going to actively recruit people of color so that
Right.
our kids have someone to look up to? You know,
Right.
it's great if you're a Christian and you support Trump. Well, that's great and all that, but that does nothing for the immediate community. The immediate community wants to know, are you going to address these issues? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I somebody commented on Equal Rights page, and they said something about, well, if you hire all Black people, people of color, then wouldn't that make you racist? And that's not what it's about. We're talking about bringing diversity. We're not talking about blacking out everything and none of that. We're talking about bringing diversity within our communities, giving our kids something to look, you know, forward to look up to. You know what I mean?
So that like if your daughter wants or your son wants to be a teacher, all of a sudden they have a black man or a black woman as a teacher, they have somebody to look up to.
Right. And to teach properly. You know what I mean? So when we talk about history and we say, okay, we want Black history, and you know, from my experience, I live in different places. In some places, Black history is elected. You know what I mean? So I personally feel like there shouldn't be a Black history. Like, you don't hear people saying all history matters. You don't hear people saying Black history matters. You know what I'm saying? This is something we have to think about. You know what I mean? So
but then that opens up the entire subject of who's making textbooks.
Right, exactly. So we go deeper. So like when we talked earlier, we said that, you know, a lot of people, they realize that or realize or may not realize that what they grew up with is just, it may not be completely accurate. It was just something that was taught to them over time, and they never questioned it. They went with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So kind of to go ahead,
make it. You good?
And for those watching, we're still working out the kinks. This is on Zoom, so if we're stepping on one another, it's because we're trying to figure this whole Zoom thing out. But kind of to wrap everything up, two final questions. The first one is, if the Equal Rights Committee could accomplish one thing, and that's it, just one thing, what would you like to see?
I would like to see equality. And I feel I can speak on behalf of Equal Rights Committee when I say I would like to see equality. I would like to see equality as well as unity. You know, where there isn't any lines. The lines are gone. You know what I mean? We're all one community, and you know, everybody's getting along. Nobody is judged by their skin, by the way they wear their hair, tattoos, sexual orientation, anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's I feel like, you know, if we can accomplish change within one person, just one person, then, you know, we accomplish our goal.
Well said. So if people want more information, or somebody wants to talk, what can they do?
As far as Facebook, you can follow me on Amaru Shakur. That's AMARUSHAKUR, and that's Amaru Shakur on Facebook, or you can follow Equal Rights Committee, or both.
And on Equal Rights, it may be Ahmad that answers you, it may be me that answers you, or we may tag team.
Right, we have different administrators and moderators on that page, so you may, you know, you never know who you may be talking to, but we're always open to talk. Everything is peaceful. Whatever questions you may have, as long as you're respectful, we'll get those questions answered. We understand that, you know, there's certain misconceptions going on that, you know, certain people just may not understand. So we're there to answer those questions. You know, we're Equal Rights Committee.
Yep. Ms. Kim, so wrapping up the subject, I'm really curious as to know, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. So for those watching, I'm the bad guy. I'm putting her on the spot. Please forgive me, Ms. Kim. But as a person of color and as a female, because loved, because I'm a guy. I know a guy's point of view. You know, I love to listen to the women's point of view because they see things in a different facet.
Right.
What would you like to see come from all of the protests, not just here, but the protests all around? What is something? Now, we're not talking about, you know, equality or peace for the world, but if you could see one change locally, what would it be?
Locally.
Yeah. Locally, I would just like people to acknowledge that, you know, this is a problem that locally we do have that here in Perry. Locally it is a problem, and just acknowledge it. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own views. No, you're not trying to change everybody's views, and you can't change everybody's views. Just, you know, acknowledge it, and that's pretty much it. Just acknowledge it and try to make it better.
Well said.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement
Yeah.
is the key, is the doorway to moving past.
Yeah, it's realizing that, you know, there's a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could be driving in your car and the gas light on, and you could ignore it. It's giving you it, you know, the warning that you don't have gas. You can ignore it, but it's there. So this is a problem that's gonna be there, and eventually, like, everything gonna come to a halt. And you know, there's going to be a bigger issue. So we have to fix the problems that we have now while we still have a chance. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, a couple things to point out, you know, before we close out. And once again, thank everyone for watching. I felt really passionate about this episode. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was telling the viewers, thank y'all. We appreciate y'all.
Yes, we felt really passionate about this. It was a subject that, you know, we both felt that needed to be broached sooner rather than later. And we want to remind you that coming up, starting Monday, we talked a lot about leadership and elections and officials. Monday is early voting. Monday starts early voting in Florida. Go vote if you have not voted. Go up there. Miss Sutherland, she's awesome. She will help you if you need help. She will, you know, they'll social distance, all that stuff. Go vote. These elections in August, though they're not for the president.
And by the time this video is uploaded, it will be Monday, so you should be going out there today.
That's right.
If you don't understand.
These are the local elections. These are the ones that impact us the most. So please go vote.
See, and I want to speak to you know, the Black community. A lot of times we don't realize that our local elections matter more. We need new leaders within our community, and the leaders we do have that are doing what they're supposed to do, we need to help build them up. We got to make change, and it starts within our community. I encourage everybody to vote. We'll be posting the voter registration links in the comments and the description. We encourage everybody to vote if you can. We have to make a change. If we don't make a change, then we're not doing nothing. We can't expect nothing.
Absolutely. And for our next episode, just so everybody can write it down, we are scheduled to have a roundtable with a couple local mental health experts, and we're going to talk about domestic violence in our local community. So we're going to sit down, we're going to kind of listen to them.
That's right.
Yep.
So we appreciate y'all. This is ERCTv. I'm Amaru Shakur.
I'm Kim.
Yay, Miss Kim. And I am the Doug Wallace. So next time, peace.
Peace.